the science of fat cell transfer is actually very important to me. And the factors that determine the viability of your fat cells is extremely important in terms of getting you the best results. So let's look at these factors. Number one, the size of the liposuction cannula that your plastic surgeon uses is important, meaning that smaller cannulas actually damage the fat cells more than larger cannulas. So typically in my practice, I use a larger cannula to harvest your fat. Number two, the negative pressure that is used to liposuction has a profound effect on fat cell viability, meaning that if the liposuction is done at higher pressure than a lower pressure, the way we do it, you're gonna damage more of your fat cells. Number three, we typically use tumescent fluid or wetting fluid before we liposuction. This fluid is injected into the area that you are planning to liposuction, and it has lidocaine and epinephrine. Lidocaine numbs the area, and epinephrine constricts the blood vessels so you lose less blood. There are studies to show that lidocaine actually is toxic to fat cells. Perhaps it's better not to use lidocaine, and perhaps it's better to perform your liposuction under general anesthesia. Number four, it's been shown that red blood cells that are liposuctioned at the time of fat cell harvesting damage fat cells. So it's important to get rid of the red blood cells as soon as you perform liposuction. And there are ways to do that by using filter systems to separate the fat cells from as many red blood cells as possible. Number five, when you get fat cells, you want to remove all the fluid, all the red blood cells, clean it out, and wash it before you perform fat cell transfer. And this wash itself is important because you're removing cells that are damaged, you're removing lidocaine and epinephrine, oil, and debris. In addition to these parameters that are important for getting optimal fat cell viability, the technique of transferring fat into your buttocks or your breasts are also important. For years, plastic surgeons were talking about putting fat cells into your muscles because muscles in general have a richer blood supply. So the idea was, let's transfer these cells that now have no oxygen, no nutrients, no blood into an area that has a rich supply of nutrients, circulation, and oxygenation. The problem is that these muscles also have big vessels. At the time of the transfer, if you did not know what you were doing, you would be injecting your fat cells into blood vessels, which could potentially migrate and create fatalities. And this is why Brazilian butt lift has a bad rep as a result of having less qualified surgeons performing these procedures. I have been performing Brazilian butt lift surgery since 2005. And as I mentioned previously, it has one of the lowest complication rates of any plastic surgery procedure. And that has to do with the fact that I have never injected fat into muscles, ever. The concept never made sense to me, and I believe that fat cells are happier among their own fat cell population. So in my practice, I actually inject the fat cells underneath the skin within your own fat tissue because I believe that fat cells survive better when you transfer them into the same type of tissue that they reside on normally. The technique of placing the fat cells is important. If you go in and inject large amounts of fat cells into small areas, more and more of those fat cells will die because, as I have said many times, the fat cells will require blood and nutrients and oxygenation. So if you put fewer of them among living fat cells, those fewer cells will obtain nutrients and oxygenation from their adjacent cells and graft better. So the technique of micrografting, meaning putting few cells throughout and building that over and over, is paramount to getting optimal results. And that's what we do for our patients.